Hello and welcome to this, your second tutorial on the emissions calculator app development. On this week, you will learn to upload files or copy files from an external repository to your own repository, read a directory tree from other developers, create a directory tree for your own emissions app, and if you like to keep going, we're going to include an optional module where we're going to explain what is a fork in GitHub and what does it do. More importantly, just as a form of a review, this is the screen that you should be looking at as soon as you finish tutorial 1. That means that you already have created a GitHub account. You've already been assigned to a development group or organization, and also you had been assigned to a repository for your specific group. If you cannot see this website as soon as you get on github.com, that is either that you should log in with the login credentials you gave to GitHub, and then if you press here at any time, it should take you to this, your home dashboard, your home page. If we want to get into the repository, we just go and press in here. This is the page that you should see for your repository. Important to note, the section on projects. If we open in there, I have now uploaded for you some examples so you can keep going and update your project manager tool. This is an important task from the diary management or the diary management group. In here you got options like to do, in progress, and done. I have included some examples for you to get it through. If you press in these 3 dots at the right corner, you get the option to edit these notes. It looks like this, and it shows you the syntax of what I have done in here. For instance, you see how I make boxes, tick boxes, and how do I make hyperlinks. It is up to you how do you want to define this. So every time we want to go back to a repository, we could just go and press in here. The second part that I want to review is the README section. This file over here is directly translated over here, and I have included that also on your repositories on every single group. If you go and press on the pencil at the right of the README file, you will be taken to a section where you can edit the files. Remember, after you edit anything, you should go on the lower part, add an optional extended description. I have uploaded this. I have adjusted README or anything you like to write, like a description of what you have done, and then commit changes. The changes will directly appear both here, and if you go back to your repository, it will show up directly. So we want the README file to be the place where all your updates are uploaded, and also the information of your emissions calculator app. Additionally, the emissions methodology team should also put the information that they already keep browsing through either official sources or papers on how to calculate emissions for transport sources such as buses, cars, hybrid cars, petrol cars, etc., etc. Right? If you are not already here, I do suggest you to go on and check out tutorial number 1 with the link here in posted. Right, back into business. So as a review, you all remember this from our first tutorial. This is just a basic description of how the app works. So far, we got the GitHub account, but we need to include information inside that GitHub account, aka the app motor, the app code, so it can be reproduced by a Heroku system. Right? Today, we're going to focus specifically in this section. What are the files necessary from Flask, that is a module in Python, to build out the design the requirements for the app, and the code itself. All right. First of all, in order to do that, we're gonna go back into our repository. Any of us, particularly those managers on the app development team for the next week, should focus very closely on the things that I'm going to do now. What I'm going to do now, first of all, is getting into a source, a GitHub account. That GitHub account is going to be github.com/ this section over here, Gabriel Fuenmar / ENE 4425 emissions app. Note that this link will also be uploaded at your PowerPoint, and will also can also be found at the notes or the description below the YouTube video. Okay, now we download the file. We go up to the place that says code. We're gonna download the zip file, and that's basically gonna take all these things on this guy's repository that I don't know who he is, to our local computer. Okay, once we open the zip file, should be somewhere here, we can take the folder out and put it somewhere in your desktop or whatever. And that's basically for it now. Okay, just keep it there. We're gonna do some additional things later on that. Okay, now we go back to our ENE 45 group XYZ. So let me grab an example from So I will just try going into this website. This is my own for testing purposes. Okay, I go directly onto the repository. And yes, that's the repository for admin. Alright, so we already got that information in our desktop. So the next thing we're going to do is going to go and press Add File. The section that says Upload Files. And you could either drag and drop the files from here, or upload them one by one from here. So to just keep it up on this one, we're gonna upload all the files except for license. Okay, so you could either take this first three, start uploading, and then all these four. I'm just doing here shift left button, left click, or you can just bring them up, all of them except for license, because we already, if you do remember, we already got the license there. Right, so we can compare the files already. We got an app file, we got the requirement file, a Python app file, profile, all the files that we had it from here. You can enter something like upload, and here you put the uploaded initial files for emissions app, or whatever you like to do. This is just for track keeping. Go and press on commit changes. And we're just gonna wait a couple of minutes. I'm just gonna feed forward this one. Okay, we are back. So what we did is, like, we took all the files from here. Remember, these are the ones that we downloaded from the central repository, a repository from an external user, and we put them all in here. So far, so good. So back to what's the app structure. We already uploaded. Put this here. the requirements that are included in this requirements file, the code. So for that, yes. The code that is this file over here, and the design layout that is going to be holding here at templates. The thing with Flask is that they use very standardized ways of setting up this folder, such that the external applications or external cloud environments as Heroku could easily read them. Together with those files, what we got here is a static folder that includes information of some key issues like fab icon. So this is basically that thing over here, that figure that shows up here. It's going to be uploaded here. And it has to be called fab icon so it can show up when your apps start running. Otherwise, it will just put a default Flask image or something. Then you got the template section that includes the HTML designs, brief explanation of HTML, and you could call it a language used for giving instructions to the browsers, such as Google Chrome, on how they have to deploy, what the positions are, what the colors are, etc., etc. A quick or fast way to check out how the HTML works for your actual web page is going in your Google Chrome browser in these 3 dots, entering into more tools and accessing the developer tools. Then you press this button over here, and if you scroll on any section, it will tell you what definition in HTML each section has. And also a cool feature that I like to play with a lot is, like, for instance, if you go in things like this box, you can change the color of the box locally, meaning that it doesn't show up from the website, but it's just your local view. And this is quite important because this is a tool that we can use later on to define our own website in terms of what colors I want, what kind of font do I want, etc., etc. Another example is just clicking on the fonts, changing let's change something here, the font size, and make it bigger, bro. There you go. Right? Or even, it's like if you want to get like, you want to play a bit, like a fun joke with a friend, you can even access the text, and you can access, or you can put in random information like this is my page. Gabriel. Just enter and it will change it out and it will show there. We're good until we refresh it and it will go back to the default. Okay. So here's another cool feature. In here, those settings are given for every website or every tree inside our website, every link from the home site and so on. We're gonna get on the next tutorial, we're gonna describe some of the details on how to change settings or how to change colors and so on from these HTML files. So now back to business. We already explained what templates is. It has to be called templates. The folder needs to be called that way, otherwise Flask will not detect it. And you got app py where the Python code is embedded. You can also open it and check how the Python code looks like so far. And you got this proc file that is like a specific file, so Heroku could recognize what the instructions are to run the app file. And then you got this YAML file. The YAML file is an app engine that says step by step how to execute the Python app, and includes information related to the CPU, demand, how to install modules, etc. And requirements include the information of the modules we need to run the application with the specific, call it version. So these are modules for Python. As soon as the app starts running, it start installing all of them to make them run online. All right, we have covered that already. Now we are gonna get to the position of how to do or how to look at directory trees. Directory tree, and you will find that on Google, and you will find it referenced within developer blogs, is this basic standard created on basic language that state us how does a directory looks like or a repository looks like. using this as an example, you can see from here at the left, how does this looks like. For instance, we got something called app.py that is in here, all below an application called FlashDB write, so you can call it whatever you want. We got the proc file, we got the Python app YAML, we got the requirements text, and these lines over here declares folders, meaning that inside you have a static folder, and inside the static folder with a tab you have something called fab icon PNG, as we saw before. Also below the templates, that is a folder, you have something called the HTML records that we saw before. This is quite important because this is not a standard, but it's a convention. It's used within developers to recognize what's inside that repository without having to go inside every single folder and checking every single folder for what they have. Okay. So our next task will be to, how do we create this thing automatically? First of all, if you do remember, we got the folder that we downloaded from the Gabriel central database, the central repository. We got it here. So the first thing that we do, we go on the tab of the file explorer. We just can erase this one and press CMD. That should open a command prompt like this, directly on the folder that the files are located at, and we're just going to tap in tree space, then you got a /a space /f, and then you put higher than and the name of the output the way you like to call it. Let's put it like tree output that doc for a doc file. Press enter, and it should have created a Word document for us that when you open it, we will show you something like this. This is basically what I've showed you before. So the next thing you will do is just like copy that one, go into your repository, open the README file, use one of the syntax that I taught you on tutorial 1, something like directory tree colon, then 2 spaces, 1, 2, and then 2 tabs, 1, 2, and we enter that in. It will not don't look right, so we will highlight all of them, and then we'll press that tab key. 1, 2. Okay. When it turns gray, it means that the application is running good. And we need to give a name to this one as well, meaning we need to name a head to this one. So it will be this symbol over here, plus dash dash dash, and the name. What name would like to put it? Emissions app. Okay, so I put here introduce directory tree commit changes. Okay, and now what we see is this over here, and that gave us an idea when we go back to the repository how the repository looks like. This is a shortcut and what information we got inside the repository. Got it? Very nice. Okay, as a form of a review, you can check out, here is the CMD, and the way it should look like. I will erase that because you will not need this. That's what you need. Okay, so this week, the new task for next week are gonna be, we want to see some updates on the project section. Those are for the diary team. Remember to always update the project section, the Kanban columns, and in the README file, start documenting what you are doing so far. It doesn't matter how small it is or how small do you think it is important to document absolutely everything. And the emissions methodology team also should update the README file. Remember that, with the inclusions of the information you have gathered for the week on emissions calculation methods. All of it. Don't be shy. Keep putting information in the README file, because then we're going to discuss which one is better and make your app the strongest as possible. The app development team has some interesting tasks. First of all, upload or copy the files from the GitHub account, the central GitHub account. Here's the link, and upload those to your repository. Also, if you prefer, and I should suggest you to do that, build a directory tree into the README file as well. Now, individual tasks. If you like to follow this as a personal project, you can also do so. So the individual task for this week is for you to create a new repository with the emissions app for your own account. Meaning that you already built a GitHub account. Now you will create a new repository different from the one you're working with on the emissions calculations app for the group. And you can call it differently. Just let's go through it really fast. You go back to your dashboard. You will enter in here where it says create new repositories. And it will give you an interesting option, something called import a repository. It means like it will make a direct copy paste of the existing repository you like to copy. In that case, we can go to this the URL. You just can copy the URL, go in here, import repository, and give a name, something like my own repo business emissions. Put your name if you like, Gabriel. Press it as a public and begin import. It's gonna take a while. I'm just gonna fast forward this one. Okay, now we are done. If you go back once again to your dashboard, you will see options. You press on Gabriel, or I mean your local, because you got the options to go to your organization or just to your local repository or your local dashboard. Go to your local dashboard and you will check out the repositories you have here. This is the one that you just created for yourself. And here's all the information. You might want to create a README file in here, add information, and do as you wish. So this is going to be completely isolated from the group repository, meaning that if you follow the steps such as in the group, at the end you will also have an app running for yourself that you can present, for instance, to some interviewers interested in the things that you have done or you have claimed that you have done, right? So this is something just for you. So having closed with that statement or with this section, I'm just going to stop the video in here. I'm going to continue on the optional section where we are going to talk something about forks and how those fork works on GitHub. See you next week. Hello, welcome back. This is the optional section where we're going to explain what does fork does and what do they do. First of all, I got to mention that fork is, let's call it a tool where for cooperative development, you can connect directly to the source code and suggest changes, but without altering the source code. So far, in the setting that we have created for you, everyone within the team can change things in a cooperative manner without requesting permissions. The thing with fork is that it allows you to develop your own repository completely independent from the main source, and then when you want to push those information, you can push it to the main repository, but there the administrator of the main repository can accept or decline your suggestions on changes on the code. Okay, so taking on from the example that we have delivered before, we are now inside the repository for our group. Let's call it group number 1, group number 2, or group number 3. If you by some reason go and press fork, you can attach it directly to you. And that will create a whole new repository for you that is linked to the main repository. And you will notice where you are because of this symbol of here. If you do remember, if you want a regular repository, you will see this symbol. But for your case that press the fork, you will see the symbol over here. Right? Okay, every time you log in this repository, it gives you information like, okay, how are you linked with the main repository? In this case, the main repository and you are even. That means that whatever is there is in here as well. So no changes have had happened in any of the repositories. If there's a change in the main repository that you like to adopt in your own repository, then you just go on pull request. Okay. So you may want to ask like, okay, so what's the main difference? Well, let's prove this with an example. If you go on readme file and you just enter something, let's say, let's write LinkedIn as a random stuff. I add LinkedIn, and you commit to changes, you will see such changes in your own repository. But if you go back to the main repository, those changes are not show up because you have not sent it to the main one. So how do you send the changes to the main repository? You get to your for section, you already make a change, and there's already the information saying that you already have one commit. Commit is for updates ahead of the ENE main repository. So what you're gonna do next is like either press here or press here, pull request. Check out what you have done. Okay, I have added the section LinkedIn to the README file. I am going to create a pull request. That means that I'm going to send a request to the administrator to see if he wants to adjust it or not. Okay, it's going to review again. What is this? Okay, I'm LinkedIn. All right, and then you're going to press create pull request again. And that's it. So if you go back, this one, sorry, on your fork repository, you realize you got your stuff done. They're gonna still give you information about this updates, and in here nothing had happened yet because there has been no actions, but there's now a pull request over here, meaning that from your other account, from your fork, you send it to the main one, and on the main one you need to accept it or not. Let's say I am the administrator on this website, so okay, I see I'm checking out what the other guy did on the fork. Okay, he said something called I add LinkedIn. All right, you're updating my README file. How it's gonna look like? I like it. All right. Okay, I reviewed the changes already, and I can set something about like, okay, you know what? I need something new. I don't like this one. I don't like it, or I like it. And then you can just submit the review, but not approving stuff, meaning that it will return to you the guy from the fork, but I'm not accepting it yet because I'm not satisfied. Right? Back to the pull request. No, this one, sorry. Should be here. Okay, if I like it, I just go through and say, okay, you know what? I like this commitment. I like this option, so I will just merge request. I'll confirm the merge, and then eventually, or right away, should show up your updates in the main repository as well. So that's basically what fork does. It is a bit more complex. That's why I decided at the very end to not include this as part of the tutorials, because it was gonna be such a mess to try to organize everything up on this one. So I decided not to do it. However, if you already press fork, and that's not a problem, you can keep going as with the fork. I can cope with that. I can adjust to that. It's not an issue. But if you don't feel confident with fork, and you realize like, you know what, I don't feel confident because I'd rather prefer to change this directly, you just go back to your fork section fork repository, go all the way out to settings, then scroll all the way down and get into this zone called danger zone. Don't worry, if you do things here, they're just going to happen in your own fork. You don't have permissions, or I haven't granted you permissions to do these kind of things on the main repository, meaning that whatever you do here doesn't matter. It's up to you. And you will not break anything out. So you just go ahead and delete the repository. They will ask you to type in this information and copy it. And then you delete the repository from here. And that's it. Boom. It's gone. But you're going to still be part of your group's repository. And as far as you could tell, the information will still keep in unless you change it. All right. And the settings, if you realize, are way smaller than the ones that you had in your own fork, meaning that there's no chance for you to delete this repository because this is the main one. Only the administrator, in that case me, can delete the repository. Okay. So now you realize that there's no fork anymore because you already, as a local user, erased the fork, and that clears out your own the group's repository. This is very popular between developers when you have like big groups of developers, all of them being participants in the code development itself, like inside the code, changing the alter codes. Amazon, for instance, I know that use things like this, where they have a supervising, let's call it developer, that whenever all the other developers that are within his team do changes, he check this out on a regular basis, or probably he set up his email address and receive the updates and decide whether to change or not the source stuff. The advantage of this is like these things are changed directly, and when this is connected to something like Heroku or Amazon Web Services or any other machinery to run cloud applications, then it will directly update that on the application that is seen by the users out of the box, on in their computers or mobile phones. So with that, I'm closing this optional section on forks, and also encourage you check it out again if you have still questions. And if you do and still have questions, post something either on a discussion room or send me an email through your Canvas dashboard. So goodbye.